The update. My 21M girlfriend, 20F, was SA'd while in the process of cheating on me. I don't know what to do from here. Hey everyone, sorry I've taken so long to post this update and for the lack of replies on the previous post. I needed some time to sort out the situation, but I did read as many replies as I could, and I appreciate all the advice and messages, especially from those who had been put in similar situations as me. I guess I should start by clearing a few things up. First off, to everyone who thought my story had holes in it. It definitely did, and I'm sorry for that. At the time, and even now, I was missing a lot of information and was filling in gaps as best I could with what I had. I also didn't want the post to get too long, so I left out information that I guess would have painted a better picture of my situation. I'll try my best to include those missing details. If you're just interested in the update, skip down a few paragraphs. So, details about John. He is part of Sarah and my social circle and lives quite close to us. Some of the behavior from John towards Sarah that made me uncomfortable throughout the course of our relationship included constantly making comments about her body, putting his arm around her every chance he could, asking her to go with him on a trip to Europe last summer, just the two of them, poking her breasts when she's wearing tight clothing, saying things like, "I'm lucky I met her when I did," or "she would have been with him by now," etc. It wasn't any one thing, but a culmination of everything that made me uncomfortable with her spending a lot of time with him. She never encouraged his behavior, at least when I was around, but didn't actively discourage it either, despite us openly talking about my boundaries. She just brushed it off as them knowing each other for so long and being comfortable with one another. A few smaller details I guess are relevant and should be mentioned. One, we are not in the US. COVID, while still obviously an issue in our country, our area is relatively COVID-free, and everyone going to the party Sarah went to was part of our larger social circle. It was at a large condo a friend of ours was renting for the summer. It was not some open invite party with 100+ people. Still dumb, I know. There were 30-ish, maybe 40 people there, so in hindsight, yeah, no one should have been at the party to begin with. Lastly, clearing up both Sarah's and my financial situation, I am lucky enough to have my parents paying for my tuition, whatever scholarships didn't cover, so I can focus my resources on just day-to-day living costs like rent, groceries, etc. Sarah, on the other hand, was pretty much thrown to the wolves after finishing high school. Her parents, like I stated in my edit, are very religious and very controlling, so they told Sarah they were only going to pay for her schooling if she went to a local college. She refused and came to my school. She lived in residence for her first 2 years, which was covered by financial aid. I got my apartment about a year ago, and with COVID and her not wanting to go back home, we decided it would be best if she moved in with me. Her finances are basically completely tied up in tuition and student loans, so I offered to keep paying full rent despite her living with me full-time. Actual update. Oh boy. I wish I could say things have gotten more clear in the past week, but honestly, it's been a total clusterfuck, and it's only gotten worse. I spent a few days at Sam's, reaching out to friends, trying to get a clearer picture of what happened that night before going back to talk to Sarah. I got told the same story multiple times, that she was the one who started flirting with John and led him upstairs. I should say right now, in my first conversation with Sarah confronting her, she didn't explicitly say she had intended to sleep with him that night. She just confirmed she took him upstairs. She was basically having a panic attack throughout the entire conversation, so I had a hard time pushing for clarity. So by this point, in my heart, I was trying to find any excuse at all for her to save our relationship, but my mind was telling me that the relationship was over, at least for the time being. But as many of you commented, despite my obvious grief in losing a 2-year relationship, I decided I'd be willing to let her stay in my apartment again, rent-free, to at least the end of October to sort out other living arrangements and support. I called her about 3 days after staying at Sam's and told her I'm willing to listen to her side of the story, but I need the complete truth about everything, and she agreed. So I went back to my apartment later that evening. We sat down and I asked her about what really happened that night. She started crying right away, but not panicking, and told me she had to tell me something about herself. Sarah has always been into the party scene more than me. I've never really been comfortable around drugs and that environment in general, but I went with her anyway about once a month or so. She, on the other hand, would have girls' nights out and parties pretty much every weekend. Right at the beginning of our relationship, I told her I'm not really comfortable being with someone who is involved with hard drug use. My brother has a history of addiction, and I've seen what it can do to somebody and the people around them. She told me that's fine since she only drinks and smokes weed occasionally. Well, it turns out for about a year now, she started doing harder drugs at parties when I'm not there, and her girls' nights were often just her and someone from our social circle, John included, going to a friend's apartment to do shrooms. I was shocked, to say the least, and I didn't even know what to think in that moment. I just tried to ask her more about what happened on the night she was assaulted, and if she was intending on cheating on me that night. She came clean and told me she did lead John upstairs, but swears she wasn't trying to sleep with him. She just wanted drugs. He told her it was cocaine, but obviously it was not, since only fentanyl and alcohol showed up in her system at the hospital. She told me he immediately started coming onto her, but she tried to fight him off. Eventually, though, she was too drugged out to fight back. After consoling her for a while, I asked her what her relationship with John was really like before, and if they did anything together before what happened that night. She admitted that they made out a few times before, around Christmas last year, but promised it didn't go any further than that. She was begging me to forgive her and said she needs me in her life, that she was just in a rebellious phase because of her upbringing. I didn't know what to believe anymore, and still don't, to be honest. I was just completely overwhelmed by everything, so I told her I needed to clear my head and left again. Sam was nice enough to let me stay at his place again. I talked to some of my friends she said she was doing drugs with, and they confirmed it. I was pretty upset at them for hiding it from me, but they told me she basically forced them to keep it a secret from me. It feels like so much of my relationship was a lie. She wasn't the person I thought she was, and she lied constantly for who knows how long. At this point, my mind was basically made up, so I called her and told her it's over. But she can stay at my apartment till the end of October, but only if she finds a therapist and gets help during that time. She basically lost it during the call, but my mind was made up, so I just said I'd be staying at Sam's for a while and hung up. I wish that was the last of the shit that happened, but literally a day after that, I started getting spammed with hate messages and calls from friends, relatives, and people I don't even know. Turns out she's posted all over social media about how I was breaking up with her because she was raped and was kicking her out with nowhere to go in these C-19 times. She also wrote that I've been emotionally abusing her after her assault, victim blaming her and stopping her from getting a therapist. I'm completely lost. I'm furious, heartbroken. I can't even describe all the emotions I felt. I called her again that night and told her she has 2 weeks to move out now and I don't want to hear from her again. I had to spend the past week playing damage control, trying to clear my name on social media and calling friends and family. I was ostracized by co-workers, though luckily my boss was on my side. I was getting doxxed, receiving death threats. My life basically fell apart. Sam, thank God, was completely understanding through all of this and said I could stay at his place until Sarah moved out. She's moving out on Friday, but I don't want to go back to that apartment anymore. I've had to cut out friends and my reputation is now in the garbage. I lost the first and only person I've ever loved. I don't know anymore. I low-key want to end myself, but I'll find a therapist sooner or later. I just feel numb to everything. I don't even know if I'm right or wrong in this situation anymore. I hope I haven't rambled on too much. I know this post is really long, but thank you really to everyone who showed support in the last post. It meant a lot. TLDR, girlfriend lied to me about the night she was SA'd. Turns out she was with him that night to get drugs, had been doing hard drugs behind my back for months, cheated on me with the friend that ended up SA'd her, and then lied on social media about how I had been emotionally abusing despite my best effort to support her, causing my life to fall apart. Edit. Someone's comment made me realize she was still lying to me the second time I talked to her. She changed her story about what she was drugged with, and I didn't even realize. I was not told by the hospital what she had in her system, and I'm not very knowledgeable on drugs in general. All that information I had came from Sarah. I don't even know if she was drugged against her will at all at this point. God. I'm doubting everything now. This is not the person I thought she was. I don't even care. She's out of my life now.
Hey man, this whole situation is fucked, but right now you gotta worry about yourself and not the friends, the apartment, or even her. I know it sounds dumb, but those kind of thoughts can turn south really quickly. Do you have a friend you can maybe crash with for a few days, or someone you can sit down and talk to? If not, feel free to reach out to me, man, even if you just want to shoot the shit. But no one should be alone after going through something like this.
Thanks, man. I have a good friend I can stay with for the time being. I really appreciate the offer. I'm still trying to put pieces back together at the moment. I'll reach out if I need.
Dude, not to be callous, but you have bigger fish to fry. She publicly accused you of abuse. That can go south pretty quickly. You need to consult an attorney about combating the claims she's made against you because those could lead to criminal charges. Generally speaking, a cease and desist letter from a lawyer should be enough to get her to take things off of social media and revoke the claims. Best of luck.
It is actually a crime to make those kind of false statements. Consult a lawyer or whoever in your country that deal with that shit.
She basically lost it during the call, but my mind was made up, so I just said I'd be staying at Sam's for a while and hung up. I wish that was the last of the shit that happened, but literally, a day after that, I start getting spammed with hate messages and calls from friends, relatives, and people I don't even know.
She's proven that all of her apologies were bullshit. Now that she's ruined your reputation, you are free to go full nuclear and reveal all details of what happened in order to clear your name. All details. She forfeited her right to privacy when she lied to everyone. By the way, get a lawyer and get some advice. This could go south very quickly if she's going around lying about you. Who knows what she'll accuse you of doing to her. As bad as it is now, be glad you're out. She's not the person you loved. That girl doesn't exist and never did. This girl is a drugged-out narcissist who went scorched earth on you when she couldn't manipulate you anymore. She was using you, plain and simple. Ask yourself, do you think she was getting her drugs for free? How do you think she was paying for them? Do you really think that John was not getting something in return? Her entire story about being drugged is now suspect, even if she had any drugs in her system, which, by the way, was always dubious given how long certain drugs stay in your system, and when she claims to have gotten tested.
I'm usually not for legal action, but I'd have an attorney write up a letter that if she doesn't clear your name, you'll come after her legally. I just recently read a Reddit where the person did this, and the woman ended up posting all over her social media, clearing his name, because she didn't want to be dragged to court.
Oh, and about the attorney. Defamation of character is a real thing, and I'd say you've been defamed.
Defamation of character, slander, purchase and use of illegal drugs. Shall I go on? What she did was not right, and you could definitely take her to court over it all. But honestly, based on what you wrote, it's pretty obvious that's not what you want. It's tough losing your first love, not to mention that the whole relationship was based on lies upon lies. Time heals all wounds, buddy, even if it's one of the worst wounds you might ever have to suffer through.
Holy shit. While reading this, I actually thought this girl you loved is human garbage, but felt a little bad because maybe she really was truthful. But nope, you reject her and boom, she goes nuts. I'm sorry, my man, nobody should have to endure what you're going through. I wish you the best of luck. I hope you can get over all of this someday. On a side note, the friends she did drugs with and covered her, you said they were your friends as well. They are not.
Sounds like she has gotten rather used to treating him badly or dishonestly for a long time. This didn't just happen one day out of nowhere. OP, you do need to find a therapist. You can't and shouldn't try to fix her, but you need to learn what your part was in the unhealthy relationship and work on the issues that enabled you to be taken advantage of. And please know it's over. And time, after a fair amount of time and work, and this will be a thing of the past. It happens every day, people survive it just fine, and you will too. I'm not so sure it's a good idea to leave her alone in your apartment. You might rethink that, or at the very least drop in, and bring a friend who can be a witness. Your troubles may not be over. Harboring trustful opinions of her resulted in this situation in the first place. Do you have credit cards, checks, medicine, financial documents, a computer, or valuables?
This also a lot. All of the people that attended that party knows the truth. Also, John might be a dirtbag, but he's been accused of rape, but no charges have been pressed. I know you hate his guts, but you might want to hear what he has to say about all of this. She's been more than willing to throw you under the bus, so I think she would have no problem doing it with him as well. Not saying she was not raped, but you have done nothing wrong here. Take this to the courts. Also, this story is so similar to something that happened with a good friend of my sister. Basically, big party, some girl was dry humping him all night. They go to a bedroom and have X. Next day, he was a grapist. Turns out she had a boyfriend that she never mentioned, and she did this to cover her own ass. After a couple of months of hell and police investigations, he was acquitted of all charges. After speaking with the attendants at the party, it seemed she was very enthusiastic about this guy, so they concluded rape was very unlikely.
This similar happened to my younger brother. Brother one's sister-in-law was hooking up with brother two. She told brother one's wife brother two raped her. It was only because brother one was sensible enough to ask the other brother what the F was going on that the police didn't get involved. Hard to claim you were great when you're the one texting the guy I had a great time last night. Looking forward to the next time and stuff like that. As harsh and heartbreaking as it sounds, OP, it might be worth talking to the other lad if no charges have been brought on him. He may have a very different version of events and may have also done you a massive favor in terms of the long term. Better to find out that she's a liar and a cheat now, rather than 10 years down the line with kids involved.
Seems rather unlikely she'd ever properly pursue anything. She'll probably just spend the next few weeks strung out with random dudes.
Just remember you are just 21, my friend. You still got a whole lot of life, love, and friendship ahead of you.
Hey. I really can't tell you that I understand your pain, but I can share what I did after my breakup. I focused on the one thing that made me happy. In my case, it was my work. I spend hours working on it. I would also like to remind you that people are drawn towards drama. Yes, including all of us. There will be a lot of people trying to get to you with their thoughts and advices. You have to shut them out and focus on you. I understand the numbness. Look at this as a fuel for growth because there is no other way you can shape it for something better. Be glad that it is over. Don't dig deeper into this because you won't like what you see and hear. You have more than enough to make your case. You know that you are right and you don't have to prove shit to anyone. Sorry for the rant, but this hit too close to home.
Consider contacting an attorney to get them to send her a cease and desist letter because what she's doing is libel, especially the accusation of emotional abuse. It may not miraculously recover your reputation, but it should at least stop her from saying anything else for fear of getting sweet. If you have a friend you trust, get them to go stay at your apartment until Sarah leaves, because it isn't at all unlikely that she'll destroy things if left there unsupervised. If she hasn't already, no matter what though, don't go. Stay yourself if no one else goes with you. Never be alone with her again because she will likely accuse you of worse. If you do have to communicate with her, only do so via text or email or some other written form. If voice is the only possible way, then put an app on your phone that records phone calls if single party consent is legal in your area. It's hard to recognize now, but any of your friends who believed her lies and cut you off were never really your friends, and you'll be better off without them. Hang out with Sam more often, build a new friend group, sue her to oblivion if she damages your property or apartment.
If your friends believe her without listening to your side of the story, they weren't real friends to begin with. I know it has to be hard, but use this as an opportunity to hit the reset button and start over. You will find love again, I promise. Stay with Sam for a while and allow yourself time to get it all figured out. Look into getting a different apartment, the options for breaking your lease, etc. If she was stupid enough to make the posts on social media, print them out or take screenshots of them. Depending on what she said, you might be able to sue her for defamation of character. Oh, and make sure she pays for her share of the rent or lease breaking fee while you're at it.
OP mentions John blatantly touching her breasts and groping her every chance he got. She was definitely sexual with him. Doesn't give him an excuse to keep going after she passed out, if that's what actually happened. Update doesn't mention anything about John actually being charged with rape. He may be scummy, but she lied to police at least about the part where he dragged her upstairs against her will, and they need to know that part isn't true.
Sam seems like a bro. You don't need a lot of friends or a circle. Sometimes you just need the good ones.